They thought power could erase bloodlines. They were wrong. The plantation slept, but secrets never do. Moonlight pressed against white columns. Cicadas screamed like witnesses who could not speak. She stood at the balcony, the owner's wife, silk nightgown, hands shaking. Below her, the fields, the cabins, and one man who did not belong to her world. He was strong, quiet, unseen unless ordered, a slave. Her marriage was a prison of gold, her husband cold, barren years, no heir, no legacy. Whispers had begun, behind fans, behind curtains. A house without a son will fall. She heard them all. Every glance burned. Every dinner felt like judgment. So she watched the fields, night after night. She noticed him first during harvest, how he worked without complaint, how blood ran from his hands, how he never begged. Strength frightened her, then it tempted her. Not desire, control. She learned his name without speaking it. She learned his routine. She learned when guards slept, and one night she sent for him, a message delivered by fear, a knock that meant punishment. He entered the big house barefoot, eyes lowered, heart pounding. He expected pain, a whip, a chain, not her. She circled him like property, like an answer. "You will do as I say," she whispered. He understood the truth instantly. Refusal meant death. Compliance meant damnation. This was not choice. This was survival. The candle flickered. History shifted. After that night, nothing was the same. She became watchful, paranoid, counting days. He was sent back to the fields, but the weight followed him. Weeks passed, then months. Her body betrayed her secret, a sickness in the morning, a hand over her stomach, a smile she could not hide. The plantation owner noticed, so did the servants. Questions grew, rumors breathed, and somewhere in the dirt, a man waited. He knew if the child came, someone would die. He just didn't know who. The bloodline had already been marked, and the end had already begun. If this story shook you, share it, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for the next part, because next reveals the lie she tells and the punishment she plans. A lie can protect you for a while. The sickness returned at dawn. She gripped porcelain, swallowed screams. This was no passing weakness. This was proof. She dressed slower now, looser gowns, ribbons tied higher. The mirror betrayed her daily. A child was forming inside her, and it carried a truth that could not survive daylight. She needed a story, fast. At breakfast, she played her role, soft smile, delicate cough. Her husband barely looked up. Plantation ledgers mattered more than her face. Until the doctor came. White gloves, serious eyes. "Congratulations," he said. The room froze. A long pause, then relief. The owner laughed, too loudly. An heir, at last. Servants were ordered to smile. Wine was poured. Prayers were spoken. But behind the celebration, her eyes searched the windows. She knew who was not celebrating. In the fields, he felt it before he heard it. A change in how overseers looked at him. A tension in the air. Whispers followed his shadow. "She's with child." His hands trembled around the hoe. He did the math in silence. Counted days. Counted sins. This child would be his death warrant. Back in the house, she prepared her defense. Tears, fragility, blame. She told her husband the lie she had practiced. "It happened when you were away. I was lonely. I feared I had failed you." He believed her, or pretended to. A child meant power, a future. Truth became inconvenient, but lies rot. She tightened control. No one alone with her, no questions allowed. The slave was reassigned, moved farther from the house, worked harder, fed less. If he broke, so would the secret. She watched from the balcony again, one hand on her stomach, one hand clenched in fear. Every kick reminded her, this life inside her did not belong to her world. The servants noticed things, the shape of the child's face in her dreams, the shade of skin she feared. At night she prayed, not for forgiveness, for resemblance. And somewhere between prayer and panic, she made her decision. If the child was born wrong, someone else would pay. The plantation smiled in daylight, but darkness was already planning. And next is where the cruelty begins. If you want the next part, share this story, leave a comment, and subscribe, because what she does next cannot be undone.
Power doesn't panic until it starts to lose control. Her body changed faster now. No corset could hide it. No prayer could slow it. The child kicked like it knew, like it remembered. She stopped sleeping, started watching. Every servant became a threat. Every whisper sounded louder. So she tightened the leash. Rules were announced. No one spoke without permission. No one looked too long. Punishment returned to the yard. Public, deliberate. Fear is louder than truth. In the fields, he was worked harder. Sunup to moonrise. No rest, no mercy. The overseer smiled while counting lashes. She watched once, from behind lace curtains, not with guilt, with calculation. If he broke, he couldn't speak. Blood ran down his back, dust stuck to skin. He never screamed. That scared her more than screams. At night, she rehearsed the future. If the child looked like her husband, she would survive. If not, someone would disappear. The midwife was warned, paid, threatened. "Tell me first," she demanded, "no matter what." The plantation owner grew proud, walked taller, spoke of legacy. He ordered a cradle carved, family name etched deep. Every strike of the chisel sounded like a countdown. Servants began to notice. The timing didn't fit. The math didn't work. Eyes lingered, then looked away. Silence became currency. One night she summoned him again, not for desire, for command. "You will say nothing," she told him. "You will remember nothing." He looked at her for the first time, really looked, and she saw it. Not fear, not obedience, resentment. Something was changing. The child grew, and with it, so did danger. Storm clouds gathered over the fields, the kind that split trees, the kind that leave bodies. She felt it in her bones. This story would not end quietly. Some legacies are born screaming, and when the time came, the blood would choose sides. If this story has you holding your breath, share it, comment what you think will happen next, and subscribe, because next reveals the night everything nearly collapses.
One night can change everything. One choice can end a life. The moon hung low, silver light cutting across the plantation. Shadows stretched like fingers. She waited, heart pounding like a drum of war. He approached silently, feet barely touching the dirt, eyes wary, muscles tense. She closed the door behind him. The world outside ceased to exist. No words, no pleasantries, only the command. "You will do as I say." He froze, saw the truth in her eyes. No mercy, no remorse. The air was thick, heavy with fear, heavy with inevitability. Her hands trembled, but her voice did not. Tonight, it happens. He swallowed hard, remembered every warning, every lash, every glance that had never blinked in pity. This was not desire. This was control. A forced destiny. The candlelight flickered, casting long, grotesque shadows across the walls. And then it began. Silent, mechanical, a transaction of power disguised as survival. He kept his eyes down, counted seconds, tried not to remember his own name. She did not look away, not once, not even when reality tore itself apart. When it ended, silence returned, but it was heavier than before, stifling, unforgiving. He left without a word, feet dragging through mud and sorrow. She stood alone, hands pressed to her stomach, mind already spinning 1,000 lies. The plantation slept, but she could not. Every creak, every sigh of wood made her flinch. The servants noticed the tension. Rumors began, soft as moth wings. "She is with child," they whispered, "not her husband's." Fear and power collided inside her chest. She had won control, but lost innocence, lost humanity. Weeks passed, and still the child grew. She counted every movement, every sign that would betray the truth. And somewhere, in the quiet fields, he waited, knowing the result of that night, knowing he could not stop it, knowing the bloodline would carry a shadow, a curse he did not yet understand. The plantation seemed calm, but calm hides storms, and when the truth surfaces, it is loud. If this story made your heart race, share it, comment your thoughts, and subscribe, because next we'll reveal the pregnancy's secret and the first whispers of rebellion. A secret grows faster than a lie, and secrets always leave footprints. Months passed. The plantation's summer was heavy with sweat and fear. She felt the child move, a flutter, a kick, a warning. She tightened her gowns, avoided mirrors, spoke less than a shadow. Every servant became an observer, every glance a potential threat. The midwife visited more often. Silent questions hung between them, silent warnings too. "Do not forget what you promised," she whispered. She nodded, eyes wide, hands clasped, but her mind raced. He watched from the fields. He could not approach, could not speak, could not act. Every day he felt the weight, the child that carried someone else's name, the child that might undo him. Rumors began to creep through the cabins, small voices, careful whispers. "She's with child, but whose?" Eyes flicked to him, then away. Fear settled over the plantation like smoke. The owner remained oblivious, or perhaps he wanted to remain so. He trusted his wife. He did not know the lie could topple him. She prepared for delivery. Her mind mapped every story, every version of the truth, every lie polished to shine in daylight. The child would carry her secret or destroy it. And in the silence of her chambers, she practiced cruelty in her head, methods of control, punishments preempted. The plantation became her chessboard. He moved through the fields like a ghost, sweat on his brow, hands raw from labor, eyes that could not forget the night. He feared the birth, feared the child, feared her. The midwife whispered again, "This child will be noticed." Her pulse jumped. Plans formed in her mind, defense, deception, devastation. The child's first cry would not just be life, it would be judgment. and somewhere in the darkness he knew the reckoning was near, a reckoning that could drown them all. If you felt the tension rising, share this story, comment what you think will happen next, and subscribe, because next reveals the birth, the first shock, and the secret that could shatter everything.
Birth can bring joy, or it can bring destruction. The night was thick, thunder rolled over the fields, wind shook the shutters. Inside she writhed in silence, the midwife by her side. Sweat clung to her skin like a second coat. The plantation slept, but she did not now. Pain tore through her, a scream escaped, clutched by fear, not relief, and then a cry, sharp, piercing. She froze. Midwife caught the baby, wrapped it in linen, the child's skin, not her husband's. She gasped. A chill ran down her spine, the resemblance undeniable. He would know. Someone would know. The midwife's eyes were steady. "What will you do?" She forced calm, smiled weakly. "Hide it." Orders were whispered to servants. No one spoke, no one questioned. He returned to the fields the next day, still unaware, still alive. But the tension was thick. Whispers swirled in the cabins. Eyes lingered where they shouldn't. The plantation owner smiled, held his wife's hand, oblivious, blind. She moved carefully, every breath a calculation, every glance a measure of threat. The baby cried, and each cry was a drumbeat of danger. She kept it hidden, behind locked doors, behind servants' silence, behind lies that could crumble with a single word. In the fields he sensed it. Something had changed. The air felt heavy. The earth beneath him seemed cursed. Fear followed every step, every swing of the hoe, every glance toward the house. She had won the first battle, but the war was only beginning. The plantation's nights grew restless. Animals whined. Wind moaned through trees. Even the moon seemed to watch with judgment. And somewhere in the dark, he knew the secret could not stay buried forever. The bloodline was tainted. The lies were fragile. The reckoning was coming. If the tension in this story has you on edge, share it. Comment your thoughts and subscribe, because next reveals the child's first signs of rebellion and the whispers that could destroy them all. Blood doesn't lie, and children inherit more than just looks. The child grew, silent, observant, eyes dark like storm clouds. She watched every movement, every sound, every step toward discovery. Servants whispered, cabin doors creaked, eyes lingered. The resemblance was undeniable. Not her husband's, not even close. The blood told the truth. Her husband still smiled, still proud, blind to the danger growing under his own roof. He did not see the shadow in his wife's eyes, did not hear the tension in the halls, did not notice the weight in the air, but she did. Every day was a test, every night a trap. The child's first steps were careful, measured, like it knew eyes were watching. The servants began to fear the baby. Whispers became warnings. Rumors turned into quiet prayers. The midwife finally spoke. "You cannot protect it forever. People will see. They will know." She clenched her fists, swallowed hard. The truth was a knife at her ribs. He worked in the fields, strong, silent, haunted, feeling the weight of a life that wasn't his, knowing every glance from the house carried judgment, and the child seemed to sense him. Eyes met, a spark, something unspoken, something dangerous. She knew the resemblance would betray them, and soon. The plantation slept uneasily. Wind moaned like a warning. Even the dogs growled at shadows. She planned her next move. Every lie, every threat,
every secret polished to perfection. The child had to stay hidden, or someone would die. But the more she controlled, the more fragile her power became. The first whispers reached the owner's ears, small questions, innocent or deadly. The tension built like a storm behind the walls. Every heartbeat was a countdown. And somewhere in the shadows, he knew the child was the key. The child was the answer. The child was the danger. The night grew darker. And next, we'll reveal the first confrontation that could unravel everything. If this story has you holding your breath, share it, comment your predictions, and subscribe, because next we'll bring secrets to the light and someone will pay the price.
Secrets don't stay buried, not when blood whispers the truth. The air felt heavier than usual. The plantation seemed to hold its breath. She noticed it first, a shadow moving too deliberately, a glance that lasted too long. The whispers had grown louder. The servants were uneasy. Eyes darted to the child, then away. He was watching too, not openly, not yet, but every movement, every glance, every sigh, he felt it. The child laughed, a small, innocent sound, but in it she heard accusation. The resemblance was undeniable, not her husband, not hidden. Every tiny feature betrayed the secret. She had hidden the truth carefully, lies stacked like bricks, each story polished, each witness silenced by fear. But one question could destroy everything, and someone was about to ask it. It began with a whisper, from the kitchens, from the cabins. Who really is the child's father? Her stomach dropped, her pulse raced. She tightened her hand around the railing. He noticed it too, the silent shift in the wind, the way eyes turned toward the house, the way fear pulsed through the servants. That night she summoned him again, not for desire, for control. "You will keep the secret," she hissed, "or everything ends." He didn't speak, didn't answer, just stared. And in that moment, she knew. Her grip on the plantation, on the child, on her husband's pride, was slipping. The next morning, the owner noticed something. A hesitation in her voice, a flicker of panic in her eyes, a shadow of guilt he could not name. Questions began to rise, casual at first. "Did you hear? People say." She smiled, too wide, too forced. But fear is a poor mask. It cracks, and her cracks were showing. He moved through the fields, silent, observant, ready. The child watched him too, eyes bright, curious, dangerous. The plantation was a powder keg, one spark away from explosion, and that spark was coming. If this story has your heart racing, share it, comment your thoughts, and subscribe, because next we'll expose the truth and the consequences will be deadly. The truth has a way of breaking walls, and no one survives it untouched. The whispers became louder, impossible to ignore, impossible to hide. The servants knew, the fields knew, even the wind carried it. Her husband noticed first, a shadow in her eyes, a tremor in her hands, a hesitation he couldn't place. The child laughed, and in that laugh, he saw resemblance, not his own, not even subtle. Questions were no longer whispers, they were sharp, piercing, demanding answers. She tried to spin lies, smooth stories, blame shifted, fear controlled, but it was too late. He confronted her, not with anger, not with violence, with quiet realization, eyes wide, hands trembling. The child, "It's not mine," he said. A pause. The plantation froze. She tried to speak. The lies tangled on her tongue. Fear clutched her chest. The midwife stepped forward. Silent confirmation. The secret was out. He turned to the fields, saw him, the slave, the man who had been silent, obedient, controlled. Now he stood tall, unbroken, knowing. The plantation's air shifted, heavy with tension, heavy with reckoning. Her husband's pride shattered, the child's future threatened, and she realized power is fragile, even when it seems absolute. She tried to regain control, threats, orders, punishments, but nothing could stop the truth now. The slave spoke, one word, one sentence, and the plantation held its breath. The owner collapsed into rage, but his authority was gone, his family's legacy fractured. The child cried, not in fear, not in pain, but in the knowledge that a line had been broken. And she realized too late the bloodline she fought to control had already chosen its side. The plantation trembled, the walls whispered, history recorded the fall. The end of a lie was never quiet. Some legacies are cursed, and some sins demand a reckoning. The plantation stood silent. Smoke from the kitchens curled like warning signs. The air was heavy with dread. She tried to command the room. Her voice faltered. Her hands shook. Power slipped through her fingers like sand. The owner confronted her, face red with fury, hands clenched into fists. But his authority had crumbled. The bloodline he thought secure was broken. The child cried, small, innocent, yet terrifying, a reminder of lies, of coercion, of betrayal. The slave stepped forward, no fear this time, no bowing, no submission, eyes steady, voice calm. The truth cannot be hidden anymore. Every servant listened. Every shadow seemed to lean closer. Every secret weighed heavier than chains. The wife fell to her knees. Pleadings for forgiveness left her lips, but no one listened. No mercy remained, only judgment. The husband's pride shattered. He realized too late the life he trusted had been built on deception. His line was broken, his name tainted, legacy lost. The child, oblivious, reached out, a tiny hand clutching nothing but destiny. She screamed, rage and fear mingling. Threats were meaningless. The plantation, once hers to command, mocked her. The slave turned away, leaving the house and the lies behind. Freedom was his, earned in silence and survival. The plantation would never be the same. Walls that had heard whispers now heard truth. Blood that had been hidden now marked the history forever. And she, the woman who sought control, who tried to manipulate life itself, was left alone, with only the child and the ruins of her power. History remembered, truth endured, and the cost of obsession was counted in shattered lives, stolen innocence, and broken legacies. The plantation slept, but the echoes of that night would never fade. And somewhere beyond the fields, the bloodline that had survived began anew. If this story gripped you from start to finish, share it. Comment who shocked you the most, and subscribe, because history never forgets, and neither should you.